I'm Terry David Mulligan. This is Tasting Room Radio. This is so cool that I have finally gotten back together, reconnected with Emily Walker, who's the wine director at the Naramata Inn. I've been trying to think of a title for this thing, Emily. I just call it's Emily's feature, whatever, right now.
That works.
Until our marketing people come up with something much better. You are the wine director at the Naramata Inn. But for some people out there, they will see you on screen and they will go, oh, I know her from other rooms. I know, where did I just see her? Four Seasons. But what were the other rooms that you worked in Vancouver?
So prior to the Four Seasons, I was actually on the opening team for the Fairmont Pacific Rim Hotel.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a ride.
Sure.
Heading into the Olympics. And prior to that, just sort of some smaller rooms. I was actually part of C and New restaurants back when.
Yep.
And actually before that was on the island. So I'd come over from Victoria, and it was kind of a string of wine retail positions up until that point.
On the island? Where on the island?
Victoria.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Now, so you'll know where the News Bay is.
I do. I know where News Bay is. Yeah. Yeah.
That's where we are. Now, you did something wonderful yourself and that gentleman in the kitchen at Bell. You came and did this reconnect with me at Hillside, and you walked in with two wines that blew my mind. And I have one of them down here. Oh yeah, Jocko.
Oh, the Jocko.
Echo
yeah.
Bay, Kelsey Rubinash, and it's called Jocko, Jocko. I haven't heard anybody mention or talk about it, and it got me to thinking, what else does she know? How many other different wines has she got underneath the table that I don't? So that's why I thought maybe I just ask you to extend that conversation that we had.
Yeah.
You immediately came up with a list: Lightning Rock, Coolshana, Scout Vineyards, Nickel, Fox and Archer. I think there's one more in there. And why these? Why did you choose these ones?
Yeah. So, I mean, Nickel is, of course, very well known and a pioneer on the Naramata bench. So for that one, it was kind of more about the grape varieties. We can talk about that. But I brought their Saint Laurent out, which is one that, I think a lot of Nickel lovers are maybe unaware that this wine exists. So, just kind of digging for those little gems that we tend to have kind of more access to maybe when we're right in the region.
And what we know about Nickel is that they were the first to plant Syrah in Canada. And I'm amazed to discover in doing my homework that they were the first to plant Saint Laurent.
They were, exactly. And it was funny. I was talking to Ross Hackworth, the owner and winemaker, recently, and about the Saint Laurent, and he was very, very close to pulling those vines out when he first took it over.
Oh,
and I wish I could remember. I think though it was John Schreiner who said, "Do not do that. These are special vines," and he convinced him to leave them, and now he's of course very glad that he did. It is just about 3 rows of these vines, and so it does tend to be mostly a wine club exclusive, but we got our hands on a bit of it to pour by the glass at the inn. This wine to me really evokes that feeling of fall and sort of cozy winter evenings.
It's a medium red. It's not a big banging red. It's what family does it belong to? Do we know?
So it is a derivative of Pinot Noir.
Okay.
So we know that Pinot Noir is involved. but we don't know who the father is.
Yeah.
There's been some different speculation, but it does have some Pinot Noir like characteristics to it. It has that kind of red, that bright red cherry profile. The acidity is quite high. It does have some structure, tannic structure in this wine.
Yeah.
But the tannins are soft and approachable for the most part. And I describe this red as being almost sort of crunchy. And I think just because the acidity is so intense, and so it really does want to be paired with something, with a protein. I think of like roasted duck, and maybe like,
all right,
yeah.
on the nose, blueberry and the cassis. Neutral French oak barrique, unfined and unfiltered. Well done. Well done. I had a price of $39. Does that make sense? Any price, any price that you and I come up with is in the area. It's roughly that price.
Yeah, exactly. I think I had 35 noted, but 30, it could be somewhere in between there.
And how many cases does 3 rows of vineyards give us?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know exactly on this wine how many they've made. We'll have to find that out. But
it does point.
I bet,
Emily, it does point something out, and that is that you are in a unique position. I'm not telling you something you don't already know. You're at the Naramata Inn. You're surrounded by vineyards as far as the eye can see.
Yeah,
and they know that you have the smarts to understand what they're up to, and they would like your approval, the approval being, of course, if you're served in the room. It's so cool that you finally get to a spot where you have everything. You've got everything to choose from, and all of these choices out there.
It is, yeah. No, it's truly a dream gig in terms of curating a list and just having the access to speak to and learn from all of these people as well. I definitely really try to take advantage of that and give our guests as much access to winemakers and the proximity that we have as well. So it's very cool.
She is Emily Walker. She's the wine director at the Naramata Inn, along with Chef Ned Bell, and a great team led by Kate. I mean, it's an astonishing place. If you ever wanted a destination, make your plans now, because come summertime, the lineup goes around the block and up the hill by the pizza place. Lightning Rock, the Rosé Pet Nat. First of all, Lightning Rock itself is an amazing small winery that you want to keep an eye on.
It is. So this is a Summerland winery. I actually live just down the road and around the corner from these guys. So they've become, sort of family friends and good people to know. But yeah, Tyler and Jordan, they're a husband and wife team. And Tyler is, really involved with the farming side of things. I mean, they both do everything. They're both in the vineyard and in the winery. Yeah, that's right. But he's very passionate. He loves his compost pile. He's walking barefoot through the vineyards. He's an awesome guy, very passionate. And Jordan has a strong background in sparkling wine production. Actually ran the program at Okanagan Crush Pat for about 7 years before starting Lightning Rock.
Wow. Do you have to explain still at the tables about Pet Nat?
Yeah. I think a lot of people understand the difference between a traditional method sparkling and Pet Nat, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that many people don't know. Pet Nat, Ancestral, it has different names as well, which makes it even more confusing. But yeah, really, it's the difference between having one fermentation and two. Yeah. So
and
yeah.
And the 1 and 2, the difference is, of course, with the one, there's no sugar and no yeast.
Correct. And all of exactly. So they're not having to add in yeast and sugar to kick off a second ferment.
And it's how they used to make wine historically.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Hence the name, Method Ancestral. It really suits, I think it suits the style of winemaking that Tyler and Jordan like to pursue. And they talk about how they make electric wines. There is a lightning rock on the property in their estate vineyard. They call it Elysia. And there's a big boulder that you can see the top half of it is just sort of resting on the boulder, and it looks like it's just been sliced right off. And that is, it's believed that it was struck by lightning. So that's the lightning rock. But
it's a marketing ploy. Like there's no falls at Okanagan.
Come on,
They
Terry.
years ago.
Be romantic. Come on. But it does suit. I mean, maybe it is a marketing thing because they love to talk about.
It's fantastic.
I know.
Frankly, they're bigger. They're actually better than the whatever marketing team would ever get their hands on it. They've got the rock and they have the smarts to do it. I like the fact that they have cloudy wines. And as Jay Drysdale at Bella Wines says, yes, my wines are cloudy. Get over it. I mean, at the tables, do people want to know why the wines are cloudy?
Less so, definitely. I'm having to have that conversation less and less, and we've taken some risks with it. With the program here, pouring Lochinworth Chardonnay through the summer, very cloudy, big, lots of sediment at the bottom, not your conventional typical style of Chardonnay either. Yeah. And people have embraced it and like it for how different it is.
They also do a Viognier, do they not?
Over at Lightning Rock, yes, they do actually. Yeah, the Viognier, and not a typical Viognier either. In that Viognier it's a later ripening grape. It needs heat. I mean, think of it in the Rhone Valley in France, right? It's something that I think we see planted more often in the south end of the Okanagan. And so to find Viognier planted in Summerland, it's being picked earlier. The acidity is much higher. And so again, it falls in line with that electric wine sort of tagline that they use in that it's a very bright, racy expression of Viognier. So quite different. Really delicious.
Emily, we set up your camera and everything and all that stuff, and I forgot to ask you to show me the bottles. Can you show me the Nicholas St. Lawrence?
Okay, so here's the St. Laurent, and this is the 2018 vintage that I have
right
here.
And the Lightning Rock Rosé Pet Nat 2020. Yes.
2021 actually. 2021. So this was only just released. Okay. It's 100% Pinot Noir from their two vineyards, Elysia and Canyon View. And yeah, just foot trodden, as many of their wines are, and then pressed off gently into a large oak barrel. Yeah. They ferment just the one fermentation and then into bottle. So consumed fresh, very young.
They're also working with concrete tanks because he came, of course, from Okanagan Crush Pad where they major in concrete. I see a price of $29. Does that make sense? Yeah,
you got it.
Okay. She's Emily Walker. She's the wine director at the Naramata Inn. I'm thrilled to have her here. There are very few wineries more awarded than Kulshana. They keep winning all the big awards. They get people's attention.
Mm-hmm. It's a distinctive vineyard, and it's one that many people they discover it here at the inn, and they say, "Well, where's the tasting room?" And well, they don't have one. It's just it's a vineyard that's about 7 kilometers north of where we are here in the village. So it's kind of deep into the Naramata Bench as far as location goes.
It's one of those places that Pedro Pera dug into the soil with the backhoes and shovels and things, and then that everybody left him alone. And 2 days later, he came out of the hole and proclaimed something magical about this spot. What was it? Do you remember?
Yeah, that's true. Well, he was quite excited by the level of calcium carbonate that is, sort of coating the rocks that needed to be extracted from the site in order to plant. It's a very, very rocky site, and so it was not an easy one to plant. You can see a lot of those big boulders that were removed from the ground, still kind of sitting up above ground on the property now, and you can see this sort of white coating on them, and that is essentially limestone.
And it sounds like a Merceau. It sounds like a whole nother part of the planet.
Exactly. I mean, it's a very dear friend of Chardonnay. And so that's mainly what they've planted, and a bit of Pinot on the site as well. It's very elegant Chardonnay. And I think that they are doing a really, really outstanding job of, picking at different times. For balance, they're using a mix of some concrete, some neutral wood, some new wood, some stainless. They've really kind of honed in on the art of blending.
And they do it, apparently they do it separately. They've got 25, what do we got? I want to say 25% in concrete, 50% in stainless steel, 25% in new oak. So, and that's a delicate, you really have to know what you're doing to find that balance to make a wine this good.
Oh, definitely. And I think that, one of the things that I love about it as well is, this wine to me is all about texture. And, and when I talk about elegance, it's, yes, there is some indication of oak presence in the wine, but it's much more from a textural standpoint than
really it's
overt oak flavor. It's awesome. Yeah,
the cool
it's beautiful.
They make a lot of it.
Yeah, they do. I mean, this one, vineyard is somewhat, I don't want to say dedicated because they do have some Pinot, but really they're not trying to make something for everyone. They really are kind of going all in on just these two great varieties.
If we happen to find that Chardonnay, what do you think it's going to cost us?
This is the other thing. It's really good value. This is a 20, 25,
no.
20. Yeah, it is. It's an outstanding price. And I should double check that because, maybe it's a little bit, maybe the recent vintage, because I've actually still got a fair bit of the 2016 on my hands. So let's fact check me on that and make sure that it's not a bit higher. But honestly, even, for a wine of this quality in around the $30 price point, it's
any wine really that's got nutmeg and caramel on the nose and texture in the mouth, like popcorn, is just going to sell like crazy, and maybe even be classified as one of those wonderful winter whites.
Definitely. Yeah. It's an excellent winter white. Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here because I can't read my writing and I got to go do my notes. I have to be up to speed with Emily because she knows what she's talking about, as you can tell. This is Tasting Room Radio. I'm Terry David Mulligan. We'll be right back talking about Scout Vineyards. Welcome back, Tasting Room Radio. TD Mulligan. Emily Walker is the wine director at Naramata Inn. It's a prime plum position, friends. You're working with one of the best chefs in the country. You're working at a location that's a heritage run by Kate and her team. It's a fantastic destination, and she gets to be the wine director. And she is surrounded by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of wineries and has her choice of whatever she wants to pour. Her wine list, you should check it out. It's fantastic. Is Scout Vineyards on that wine list? Were you able to get your hands on some?
So it's one of those wines that it comes and then it goes very quickly. So I don't have any on the list right now because we sold out of the last of the Syrah and Riesling that we had about 2 months ago. But I just got a exciting email from Carly at Scout just 2 days ago saying we're releasing some wine and we wanted to let you know before it all gets shipped off to Vancouver. So,
Okay.
so I have some coming. The 2020 vintage of their Riesling and Syrah are going to be on the way very soon.
Okay. It's the Syrah you wanted to talk about. There were shots of on their website Georgian clay vessels. Are they? Is that Syrah coming from clay vessels?
It is, yeah. So this Syrah is fermented in Qvevri. A little bit different to amphora. It's they're I think quite large in comparison, and traditionally these, whereas amphora were designed for transporting wine, the Qvevri were not. They're traditionally buried underground. So sort of an early early invention of refrigeration.
Yeah. Well, it worked for them. I was just you can tell they're very different in their approach. Spontaneous ferments, uninhibited, mellow, unfined, unfiltered, and celebrating it as they go. Very complex, very layered, very unpolished and wild. Love it.
Yeah, exactly. So, they're really taking a holistic approach to farming and to winemaking. When you visit Scout, you'll notice that the vineyards they're not manicured. There's a wildness to the way that they farm, and that's really them trying to encourage biodiversity within the vineyard, encourage a lot of microbial activity and healthy fungus in the soil that all lends to really complex and interesting ferments.
So now I know I've watched you work that room, many rooms, and you only get maybe 30 seconds in a busy room, a noisy room, to explain a wine to somebody. What would you tell them about? What would you say about Scout? Are you just saying, trust me on this, try this Syrah? What do you do?
I definitely, with a wine like Scout, I mean, it's so unique and there's so many talking points. I tend to always though bring the focus back to the actual style of the wine, right? Because the storytelling is one of my favorite parts, but I like to talk about, just sort of the purity of fruit. And that I think that's really what they go for, is trying to have that bright, fresh profile. And that's what I love about the Scout, is because it's quite different than I think some of the really deep, dark, brooding, very, very ripe Syrahs that we get from the South Okanagan. This has innate freshness to it that, I think is partly due to the way it's been raised in Qvevri. That maybe it's to do with the yeast that they have. But it's a delicious, bright.
Do you happen to know what that innate freshness costs?
That one is around the $35 mark as well.
And is it a chase? Did they make quite a bit of it?
They do not. No, I think that there's probably about 100 cases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Is it in 10 minutes? I got 10 minutes with it. Now, can you show me the Scout Vineyards bottle? Have you got it handy there?
I don't have the bottle on that one, Terry, because it's not.
You can't miss it. It says Scout. That's basically all it says on the label.
It's all, yeah, exactly. It's usually kind of some beautiful solid color in the background and then Scout across the label. But yeah, it's not released until the 3rd. So
how about the Kulshana bottle? Have you got it there?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you'll see this one. You can't miss this one. Talk about a meeting place. Thank you very much, Ellen. Now here's one I couldn't get a fix on, and I told you this. Fox and Archer in Naramata making Pinot Noir. Diane Fox
Yeah.
and Tyson Archer. I some of these wineries just reveal themselves for what they are. They're not trying to fool anybody. Tell me a bit about Fox and Archer.
So Fox and Archer is one that I actually just discovered last year. And it was because the winemaker and his family were having dinner in our restaurant. And I was, funnily enough, selling them on a bottle of Scout Syrah. And I was talking to them about the wine, and I could just tell in the way that the winemaker was speaking to me, not in a ego-driven way, but just that he knew what he was talking about. And so I was like, you're in the industry, you're a winemaker, or, who are you? And he said, oh, well, in a very modest way, I'm Tyson Archer. I have this little brand, you've probably never heard of it. It's called Fox and Archer. And anyways, it turns out he's a dear friend of a few of our staff members that work here. And he's very, they're very kind of loved in the community. And so, we tasted the wine. The next day he came and dropped off 3 different Pinot Noirs. And I had no expectations, but was immediately just wowed and really excited that I discovered something new and kind of the way that it was discovered. So Tyson is the winemaker, but his wife, Diane Fox, is a Penticton native, and her family are quite involved in the real estate market here. So Fox and Fox, I think, is the name of their real estate outfit. This property has been in their family for a number of years.
Right.
It's about a 9-acre vineyard, and it's the highest elevation vineyard along the Naramata Bench at about 550 meters, and it's just up behind a hillside.
Wow. I lived in the Naramata Bench, and I could see on my walks, faded attempts at growing at altitude above Naramata. You could see that people tried and then just abandoned it. I think we know better now. I think we know how to grow up there now and what wants to grow up there now. So it's nice to know that Pinot was up there. I saw 2 Pinots listed on their website. One was Creekside. The other was 3 Blocks. Which one are you pouring?
So the one that I'm pouring is the Creekside.
Okay. Nice.
And this is, a dried up creek bed that runs through this particular portion of the vineyard. So they've made 3 Pinots, actually. So Tyson has really put a focus on Pinot Noir. They have Malbec planted on the site as well. And, again, kind of like Coolshana, there's no tasting room, not yet. I think that they have plans to maybe start one. But, it's very, very rustic. Like talk about garagiste winemaking. This truly is an Okanagan garagiste winery.
That endears me by itself. So the Creekside Pinot Noir, did they make much of it?
They made, I want to say probably about 200 cases of it.
All right.
So not a lot.
Could we, the great unwashed, find it somewhere somehow? Or do we have
I have seen it. I can't tell you whether or not you'd find it on the coast or in Vancouver. I know that there's a couple of spots kind of locally here in Penticton, sort of smaller LRSs that have it. It is sold out at the winery at the vintage that we have, which is the 2018. But I do believe that Tyson has the 2019 released, and it is available. One of the things that does strike me about this wine, again, is the value. It's incredible value. It's these wines are around the $25 mark.
Okay. I'm going to get you for Christmas. I know exactly what I'm going to get you. I'm not going to get you wine. I'm not going to get you flowers. I'm going to get you one of those nice circular little lights for all of your video work.
I know my lighting and everything. It's a little bit makeshift, but I'm a work in progress over here, Terry.
I have one last question. How did your kids make the transfer from the big city to Naramata? Did they love it?
Oh gosh, they have not looked back. Yeah, they're just, launching themselves off of docks in the summer and Apex in the winter. So yeah, no complaints.
Listen, what's your website? How do people find you?
Oh gosh, I don't have a website.
Do you have an Instagram account?
You you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Hints of Hawthorne. Or you can come and see me at the inn.
Yeah. Yes, you can. I'll talk to you before Christmas, and you're going to have a wild New Year's there. So thank you for doing this. I hope you like the exercise.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. It's such a pleasure always.
She is Emily Walker. She is the wine director at the Naramata Inn. That was the first edition of Emily's List or something. If you can come up with a better name, please tell me. I'll send you wine. This is Tasting Room Radio. I'm Terry David Mulligan. I didn't